Hello. We'll just give people a few more minutes to jump on before we get started. Go ahead and resume the recording so you guys have access to this afterwards. So first off, thank you guys so much for joining tonight for Black Friday of holiday foods. So I'm going to give you 6 tips to stay on track this holiday season without utilizing a diet. Try to find that freedom within this very stressful time of year. So that is the goal of this presentation. For those of you that don't know, my name is Lydia Nader. I am a registered dietitian nutritionist. I practice primarily in Chicago, Illinois. Hopefully there's more of you joining from all over. But I'm practice here in Chicago, Illinois. I have a private practice, run performance nutrition here that I work primarily with athletes. And then I also work through Edge Athlete Lounge, which you may have heard about this presentation through their Instagram. So I'm also the dietitian there. So a little bit more about me. Like I said, I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist. I specialize in that performance nutrition. I am also an athlete myself, primarily in the running form, hopefully maybe transitioning into some triathlons, but we will see, but primarily in the running disciplines. Work at Edge Athlete Lounge as well, and that is a little bit about me. So let's get started. So the splurge, what we tend to call the holiday season. A lot of times we can tend to lose control in these times when we're around friends and family. And then we get to the new year and we feel like we need to make these New Year's resolutions because we feel like we've made 20 steps backwards from where our goals were. I'm here today to tell you that does not have to be the case, and it doesn't mean you have to be on a strict diet by any means. So we have all those holiday parties. When it comes to, holiday, whether it be work parties, whether it be your actually celebrations with friends, with family, there's a lot of activities going on in this month and a half period. So that's the time of period we're really going to be focusing on how to really stay focused in this time without being added stress onto your life. So as you see there, in this time, this 1.5 months, that's it. That's maybe 8 weeks or so, a little less than 8 weeks, there can be an added 500 calories per day because of treats being brought into the office, whether it be more parties, more social you're being during this time period. So there's a lot of different reasons, but this is kind of a statistic out there that they say you tend to have 500 calories per day added on in this 1.5 months. So we're going to try to make sure we can stay away from that added, usually not nutrient-dense foods in that time period. Lot of dehydration. So we'll talk a little bit more about this because it actually is really important in this time period. But a lot of people suffer from dehydration in the wintertime because we leave the summertime, we think we don't need more water, we don't need to worry about our hydration, but that is completely wrong. You want to make sure that you're getting plenty of hydration within these winter months, especially during this holiday season. And we tend to be tired and sluggish. There's many different reasons for this, but most of the time it's because we're eating very calorically dense foods. Additionally, as well, being dehydrated. There's a lot of different things nutritionally, lifestyle-wise, that can contribute to us being tired or sluggish, which doesn't help our productivity, and it doesn't help our athletic performance either. So we're going to solve all of these 3 things that tend to show up within these months. So hang with me here, guys. So the deals, the 6 tips to a stronger you, that is what I'm going to share with you tonight. These are the 6 tips I have for you, and we're going to dive deeper into each and every one of them. So steering clear of diets and cleanses. So we want to make sure as athletes we're staying away from these diets, because they're not going to benefit us as an athlete, especially when we're in a training cycle. They're not usually sustainable. They're usually adding more stress onto our lives when it comes to this time period when we're already super stressful. So we want to make sure that you're providing a sustainable solution to your nutritional needs during this time. Number 2, understanding your portions. So portions help with understanding your food every single day. It is not a restriction. It is a new way of thinking about portions. It is thinking about them in a healthy, helpful way. Number 3, exercise the 80-20 rule. If you're not familiar with that rule, if you haven't heard me talk about it before, I will go into depth more on that. Number 4, stay hydrated. Number 5, learn your hunger cues. And number 6, enjoy yourself. Sounds simple, but there's a lot more to it. So let's go ahead and dive in. Steering clear of diets. So like I said before, diets are not built for athletes. They are built for a larger goal, a larger common general population, not for us who are higher activity, higher time spent within our different sports. So they're not built for us as athletes. There are some out there that a lot of athletes use, but the reason that we want to try to steer clear of them as endurance athletes especially is, one, that individual need. Everyone's nutritional needs are very different. You want to make sure that you are not restricting yourself. You want to make sure you're providing your body with the fuel that it needs, even in this holiday time. I know you might think about that really when you're in the crux of your training, when you're leading up to race day. Maybe you're in your off season now, and so you're maybe not thinking about that as much, but you want to make sure you're still providing your body with the fuel it needs in order to run properly. Not just physically run, but metabolically run, all of those things. Diets are also not sustainable. I said this before, but it's so true. They are a short-term fix to a longer goal that you might have. It is unfortunately in the research, if you look out there, 90% of people who do diets tend to fall off of them very quickly after, so they don't hold on to the practices that are held in those diets, and they also potentially will gain that weight back if the weight was a goal that they had within that diet. So if that's your goal for going for a diet, this is not a time to be focused on that, because you want to make sure that you're still enjoying the holidays. Diets don't allow you to really enjoy the time with friends, with family, enjoy the rich foods out there that you can enjoy in a balanced way. And that's what I'm here to tell you guys how to do effectively this holiday. Portions. Now you guys might see that this is something you can do every single day, not just in these few months. So I want to make sure that you guys know kind of how to proportion these. So a quote you might have heard, eyes are bigger than your stomach. Very accurate. I personally can say that I have definitely felt that. My eyes are bigger than my stomach, especially on holiday seasons. My family loves to cook amazingly rich foods, and I've always enjoyed them and loved them. But there have been days and holidays where my eyes are bigger than my stomach. So this is where portions come into play, and understanding your portions based off of your plate, as you can see the graphic there on your screen. Looking at that from a plate standpoint, or looking at that where you can see there with the different colors of proportions for a certain diet that is actually out there. And so with that diet, it's more of a teaching process, and that's why I put that graphic up there with the different containers and the different colors, because it's more an education and understanding the proportions, and rather than being stuck to using those every single day, but more of educating yourself on what your food looks like in that proportion, so you can start to go into a little more freedom when it comes to building your plate out. So the method I'm going to talk to you about today is the hand method. So the reason being is because when you go to your holiday parties or you're out and about, your hand is the most accessible tool to use when thinking about what you're going to be using for proportions and educating yourself. So the hand method, you can see here, there are a couple different graphics, and for those of you just calling in, you'll be able to see these graphics when you see the presentation afterwards, so do not worry, you're not missing a thing. But you can see here the different proportions using your fist as looking at 1 cup. You can see your palm. Looking at your palm is about 3 ounces, and especially when we're looking at animal proteins, that is a great source to be able to utilize. Looking at, a handful, so cupping your hand and looking at that's about 1 ounce. And then looking at your thumb. So if you're looking at like peanut butter, I don't know about you guys, but I love to snack on peanut butter. Your thumb is a great example of a teaspoon or 1 ounce. So excuse me there, but 1 ounce, and that's about your peanut butter. So just looking and educating yourself on those things. Like I said here, it's right at your fingertips. So there's really no reason why you can't look at your hand and kind of guesstimate without feeling like you're having to track something, feeling like you have to pull out your phone and take a picture and send it to someone. This is allow you to be freedom without feeling like people are watching you and judging you or anything like that. So this is allowing you to use your hand to really be an effective tool to be able to learn from your food and be able to have that healthy relationship with food, which we'll go further into of that healthy relationship. So that is the hand method. Now on to the 80-20 rule of nutrition. Now this, if you've talked to me before, you've attended any of my webinars before, this is by far my favorite rule, especially for us as athletes and especially from an enjoying life standpoint. You know me, my philosophy is enjoying life through our food. There's no reason that we can't enjoy our food while enjoying life and still achieving our goals. There's absolutely no reason for that. So that's why I absolutely love this 80-20 rule. So restrict is not a word you should use at this point. This is something that you don't want to restrict yourself. You want to allow yourself freedom within this time period, especially, like I've said it over and over again, but I hope it sinks in, a very stressful time of year. The last thing you want to do is add an extra layer of stress within that. So learning this rule, and I'll go over kind of what this rule looks like more in depth, but not restricting yourself. Eating clean 100% of the time is not a sustainable goal. I can tell you, first and foremost, I have never eaten clean 100% of the time. That is not something that is achievable for a long term. It is not sustainable. So it's not an achievable SMART goal to set for yourself. So we want to set you up for success. That is the goal here. 80% of the time, we're going into the rule now, 80% of the time you are consuming nutrient-dense whole foods. So this is literally the whole foods, the things you are going to get on the outskirts of your grocery store. These are the things that you can not necessarily take out of the box, but you are literally cooking yourself, you're providing for yourself. There's a lot of great nutrients out there and everything, a lot of processed things that can be nutrients, can have great nutrients in them, but we're talking about whole foods, nutrient-dense foods. So 80% of the time you're consuming those things. And then 20% of the time you're consuming whatever you like. So 20% of the time, this does not mean, this is not an opportunity to binge eat and eat whatever you want all in one day. So I'll talk to you how to effectively use this rule when you're looking at your nutritional intake within these times. So 20% of the time should be incorporating foods with a balanced meal, such as what are your sides. So this is really great when you're at holiday parties or you're at these big dinners that tend to happen along this time period, and making sure that maybe your sides are a little more nutrient dense. Those green beans, those cranberry sauces, things like that are going to be more nutrient dense and less of the straight out of the box type of stuff. So this is where you can kind of play around with what that 20% is going to look like in the holiday period. Okay, and this is ideal for your everyday athlete, which is pretty much all of us here. Everyday athlete, this is something that we all are as athletes, and so this 80 to 20% rule is really going to be more effective, not even just now. If you start practicing it here in the holiday season, it's going to be effective as well afterwards. So once you're all said and done, this is something you can see in your everyday life. And right here you can see a graphic that is really great of how this 80-20 rule works. You eat 21 meals in a week. So that's 3 meals a day, 7 days a week. And then 4 meals are quote unquote cheat meals. So that is your 20% of 21. And then 17 meals are healthy and really focus on that whole nutrient dense foods. So you can kind of see there how you can establish this rule. And it's really, when you see it in the specific numbers, that 4 meals compared to 17, it really is not as daunting as you might think. 20% still seems like a lot, but when you look at it, the specific numbers, it's not as bad. So you can see here, I will have to put some graphics up, kind of that 80% of the time comparative to your 20% of the time. So over on the left side of the screen, you'll see the different snacks or very high quality grain bowls there on the bottom, a bison burger up there with sweet potato buns. And then you see the 20%. Now, I love some of those 20% things, those burgers, donuts, don't get me wrong, but that's where it comes down to that 20% of the time. So only having this occasionally. These are sometimes foods. These are not everyday foods. And that's what's great about the holiday season is holiday is not every single day of the week. So this is where we can really have this really practiced and perfected as we go along. So next is staying hydrated. Something you might have not thought would be in this presentation, but something that is so crucial from a athletic standpoint and from a staying on top of your goals standpoint. So dehydration is 100% a real thing in the wintertime. We may not think it is because we're not sweating as much as we may feel when we're in the summertime, but it 100% is an issue. So one of the goals you should have in this time period is drinking around 2 to 3 liters of water per day. And I put fluid ounces on there too, so that's 70 to 100 fluid ounces of water, because a lot of us have water bottles that have fluid ounces. I have my water bottle right here. It does not have fluid ounces on it at all, but I know it's about 16 fluid ounces in it. So trying to drink that as much as you can throughout the day. A lot of times I'll tell my clients to set a reminder, whether it be on their watch, on their phone, so they're making sure they're intaking plenty of fluids throughout the day. And why do I ask people to do that? Why do I think this is so important, especially in the holiday winter time? 4 main key reasons. The first is it helps your metabolism. Being hydrated aids in your fat metabolism specifically and many other cycles within your body. So helping that metabolism is really crucial when you're hydrated. Number 2, it keeps your skin healthy. It keeps it from drying out, keeps it from cracking, keeps it from having to constantly put on lotion necessarily. I find in the wintertime, and when I'm super hydrated and ready to go, I am not, my skin doesn't need lotion as much, but that is different for everybody, but that's kind of one of the keys as well. Number 3 is it helps with low energy levels. A lot of times we think it's the winter blues, it's I need caffeine, I need an energy boost, where's that 5-hour energy? A lot of times it's just your dehydration. So if you just chug some water, I actually just had a conversation with somebody the other day, and they don't drink caffeine or drink coffee or have caffeine. And I was like, what do you do then? And knowing full well what she was going to say, and she's like, I wake up, I know I'm dehydrated, so I chug 16 ounces of water. Sometimes I'll throw a lemon in there, but that wakes me up better than any caffeine could ever. And that is so true. Being hydrated is important for your energy levels. So combating those low energy levels in the wintertime. And number 4, helps level your hunger cues. So drinking water helps even out your hunger cues because our bodies can mistake dehydration for needing actual food. So you may not know that, and your body is totally tricked by our dehydration and just thinks it might need food, when in reality, it just needs a little bit of water, a little bit of H2O. So those are the 4 reasons why I think it's so important to try to stay hydrated, and super simple to try to get this done. This is one of those goals that a lot of times is one of the first things I do with a client to get them in the mode, and it makes such a difference. They notice the energy levels change immediately. They notice their weight maintenance and all those things happening. So this is something that's really important, is trying to stay hydrated. And I take a drink of water after that. Next, mindful eating. So number 5 tip is mindful eating or learning your hunger cues. So this is so important. You may have heard about mindful eating or intuitive eating, as it's also affectionately called, but this is so important. So mindful eating is a way of eating where you become more in tune with your body and learn more about your hunger cues. So it's so important as athletes and as just everyday people to know what our hunger cues are, because those are what are telling us what our body needs more than anything else. So when you start to come more in tune with your hunger cues, you start to understand a lot more about what your specific needs and individual needs are. So it's a meditation for your eating, which is very true. You gain understanding and inner awareness of your habits. So where you're eating, why you're eating, what is your attitude when you're eating, what is your mood when you're eating. So there's a lot of different practices within mindful eating. And you could have a whole presentation, multiple presentations just on this. But today we're going to talk about learning your hunger cues, and why that's beneficial is it can help with your weight loss. It can reduce binge eating, which tends to happen a lot of times in these holiday seasons. So we want to try to prevent that as much as we can and give you all the tools to be successful. And helps you feel better emotionally. Eating is a very emotional and mental task that a lot of people don't realize, but it really involves your mind and your emotion. And so this practice of mindful eating and learning your hunger cues allows you to come more in tune with your emotions. And it helps you become more in tune with your body using all of your senses. So that's why it's so important to be more in tune with your hunger and learning your hunger cues. So you can see here some great graphics. But here's kind of the practice for learning your hunger cues. And there's going to be a lot more on mindful eating, don't you worry, in future presentations and future announcements as they come through. But today, learning your hunger cues is letting your body catch up with your brain. So 2 of the biggest things you can do right off the gate is taking taking a little bit longer to chew up your food, enjoy your food, understand the texture of the food. All of those different things are going to allow you to become more in tune with the hunger, come in tune with why you're eating those certain things. And the 20 minutes there is a great reminder of it takes about 20 minutes from the time you start eating and your food starts to digest in your stomach, from your stomach to communicate with your brain that it is full. So it takes 20 minutes. So if you chew up your food in little bites and you're really enjoying the flavors and you're enjoying the textures, it's going to allow you to really understand and really allow for that signal to reach your brain without having to worry about overeating or binge eating or anything of that nature. So it's allowing us to slow down, which is so important in these holiday periods, is to just slow down and enjoy everything. And finally, enjoy yourself. This seems so simple, but it is so important. It is one of those things that I want you to really take in all the things we talked about, the 5 things. You can find little tips and tricks and how to put those into effect in this holiday season. But it's important to not let guilt in. In this time period, if you're already following a diet or you're already following kind of a way of eating, and the holiday is going to disrupt that a little bit, I want you to not allow that guilt to come in, but enjoy yourself. Don't let the little person in your head say that you're doing something wrong, that you since you had that cake or you had that cupcake, that now you've done poorly or you're a bad person or you ate something bad, because that's not true. You're enjoying yourself. You're enjoying that food. You're enjoying the time. You're being aware of that time spent with the friends and the families around you. That is what is important about this time. And this question here of, where does your joy come from? Does your joy come from following a specific type of food that you're eating? Or does your joy come from the time that you're spent with your friends, with your family, in the kitchen, with your cousins, with your nephews, with your nieces? Whatever that looks like, where does that joy come from? And that, I think, will be your answer of where you should enjoy yourself and how you should enjoy yourself. And you're allowed to practice that positive self-talk in order to have a positive time in these holiday period. Because once again, I can't stress it enough, I don't want you to be more stressed out in an already very stressful time of year. This is a time and an opportunity to take your food and your relationship with food to another level, another healthy, positive level. So those are my 6 tips. And these are the leftovers, or the steals as I like to call them. So keeping away from those diets in this time period specifically, you want to enjoy your life using your weekdays to their fullest. So whether that be maybe trying a little meal prep with those 80% of your meals, and learn to balance on the weekends when those holiday parties are coming up, when those dinners are coming up. So practicing those habits are going to make them a lifelong lifestyle habit. So proportioning, like we talked about, utilizing your hand, the 80-20 rule, utilizing that, practicing that as well is going to be a very effective tool going into these holiday periods. Mindful eating habits, so learning that hunger cue, coming into tune while you're eating something, the environment you're eating it in, really taking that time to slow down when you're eating and chewing your food and allowing yourself to enjoy the experience of eating food. And hydrate. That is so important. Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. And enjoy every moment of this holiday time. Can't say that enough. Can't stress that enough. This is an enjoyment period, and I want you to take your food and allow it to be a healthy enjoyment time of the year. And I always like to leave this graphic here because us as athletes, we eat and train. That is what we do. We don't diet and exercise. We eat and train. So let that sink in, that fueling. We're fueling our bodies for something greater. And that is the mindset we should go into when we're going into holiday season, is we're fueling our bodies for something greater. So these are just a few of the resources that I use, and you will have access to these because, like I said, this is recorded and you'll have access to all of these. And that is all I have for you guys this evening. Thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate everyone joining in and taking time to be a part of this presentation. Right now, I'll open up to any questions. If you want to open up to shoot me a question, you can unmute. You can either type in the chat box, whatever questions you might have over any of these topics that we covered today. Okay, let's see. I think, let's get, do you have a question there, Daisy?
Okay. Yeah, I had a question about hydration.
Yes.
So I think I always find it difficult to like balance how much physical activity I'm doing and making sure I compensate for that. Do you have any tips on like knowing how much to drink based on like how much activity we're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So in addition to that 2 to 3 liters a day, as athletes, we want to make sure we're consuming, at least 24 ounces usually after a workout. So if you've done a workout, and it's like you're a heavy sweater. I know I'm a heavy sweater. Sometimes if you know that you're a really heavy sweater, sometimes measuring yourself before and after. So a lot of times you can weigh yourself, just not from an actual body weight standpoint to like look at that, but look at the water weight. So if you weigh yourself before doing a workout and then after, however much weight is lost is water weight. And so for every pound lost, you want to be drinking about 12 ounces to 16 ounces of water to replenish. But if you don't want to do all that weighing, just drinking about 24 ounces of water right afterwards is going to allow you to have that rehydration really well, in addition to that 2 to 3 liters.
Okay, awesome. Thanks.
You're welcome. Any other questions? No questions. Well, thank you guys so much for joining. Like I said here, and like I said here, there are all of my ways to get in touch with me. Follow me on Instagram, follow on Facebook. And I don't know if you do follow me on Instagram, but I am going to be having another webinar on 6 tips on how to lose body fat without a diet. If you can't tell, I'm really big on this, trying to stay away from diets and learning how to use your nutrition and have a healthy relationship with it while still achieving your goals. So that is going to be coming up for all of you that joined today. I will be sending you that link so you can sign up for that. That'll be after the holidays, after Thanksgiving holiday. So you guys hopefully can join me for that. But thank you guys so much for joining, and I will be sharing this webinar with you guys right after in an email. Thank you all for joining, and have a great evening.